Hi there and welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory. Today we are having a glitch-free day. Having said that, of course, something bad might happen, but hopefully everything will go well. The reason that you saw a twofer, two sets of drawings, was that last week we had a problem, and so we weren't able to get to the previous week's drawings, which were all drawn upside down. In case you missed that, you will be amazed that all of those drawings that were based on the drawings of the master Hirschfeld were all drawn upside down by our audience. And then last week we drew bunnies, and I just loved the range and variety of bunnies that you guys drew. It was incredible. We knocked out quite a few during the actual, I think I drew about 20 bunnies during last week's Draw With Me. So it was great to be able to share all of them with you. And I have to say, it's one of the highlights of my week is seeing all of the things that people have drawn as a result of this prompt that we put out each Thursday. So if you are new to Draw With Me, welcome. If you are not new, welcome too. There's a lot of friends I see in the audience, a lot of folks who are able to join us. So that is great. It is a beautiful kind of spring day. Hopefully it's spring-ish where you are, unless, of course, you are down under, in which case it is hopefully having a delightful fall. But yeah, today is I don't know, it's going to be a pretty straightforward exercise. If you're wondering, I would say get some art supplies. It could be, you might have an easel set up. You might have airbrushes. You might have huge computer workstations going. Or you might just have a crumpled up piece of newspaper and a pen that you got for free from the bank. Do banks give out free pens anymore? No, not in this century. But yes, it doesn't really matter where you are, what gear you have, because today is going to be fairly straightforward, and it's going to be a guided exercise, but it's also an opportunity to make of it what you will. So lots of folks here from around the world. We have some Christina from Reading, and we have Grace in Perrysburg, and we have, where else do we have people from? Frank in New Jersey. So it's good to see so many people representing their areas. Susan in Southern California, not far from where we are, and Carol in Long Island, and Scott in Colorado. So thanks for joining me wherever you're from, and Rick in Philadelphia. But Corinne says she got a free pen at her bank yesterday. Well, okay. I guess it continues. And here is Pau in France. Excellent. And Pumpkin in Kentucky. All right, good. So let's just assume that we are well represented globally by artists who are interested in making some art today. So before we begin, I want to tell you about a tiny bit about Sketchbook Skool's mailing list. Now you might say, mailing list? Seriously, that's where you're going to start? And I'll say, yes, because I want to intrigue you, first of all, with this book, How to Learn to Draw and Why You Should. It's free. It's an ebook. Now, you might also be saying, a book? Really? I don't like to read books. It's a slim volume, and you can ignore it if you want. But I would like to get you onto our mailing list for a simple reason. We're about to do a bunch of super exciting things, and I want to let you know about them. Promise not to spam you and bombard you with stuff, but there's a lot of cool things that are happening at Sketchbook Skool and a bunch of new things that are about to happen. So I want to make sure that you know about them. And if you go to sketchbookskool.com and sign up. So please remember to do that. If you haven't, if you're not already on our mailing list, I know a lot of you are, and that is great. So today I want to talk about lunch. But before I show you the menu, I wanted to talk about today is National Make Lunch Count Day. You probably knew that. You probably thought, you know what, I'm going to eat lunch today to celebrate National Make Lunch Count Day. But let me read you a little bit about what National Make Lunch Count Day involves. In today's busy era of getting things done, people often turn lunchtime into something that is on the go, on the run, or in a hurry. While in the past, the lunch hour may have been a time for people to take at least 60 minutes to relax, rest, and eat a hot meal, today's version of lunch is often hurried and stressful. Some people often just grab an apple or some fast food to eat at their desks while they continue working. National Make Lunch Count Day got its start. All right, here's the weasel. Here's the less than exciting part of it. It got its start in 2016 when the American restaurant chain TGI Fridays initiated the celebration of the day. All right, let's overlook that fact. But let's just talk about lunch briefly. I think lunch is good. I try to eat lunch on a regular basis. I think it's an excellent meal. I also am a big fan of breakfast. And you know what? I'm pretty partial to dinner too. But let's make lunch count. And I want to talk to you about making lunch count in a slightly different way, perhaps, than TGI Fridays had in mind, which is drawing. So when I first started to draw, I was a guy who ate lunch at his desk most of the time. And it was a hurried affair, like watching a YouTube video and shoveling down some horrible cafeteria food. But when I started to draw, I realized that this time when, and it's not like a lunch hour like we have, in like some bygone era. There's not like, all right, you get an hour for lunch, and I blow a whistle. But nonetheless, it is some time that you're allowed to take for yourself legitimately. And so what I would do is I would use lunch as an opportunity to draw. And what that might mean is I would maybe grab a sandwich and I would say, I'll be back. I'm just going to go and eat outside in the park. And I would go to the park with my sandwich and my sketchbook, and I would do a drawing. I mean, the very first drawings I ever did were of a tree and a park bench across the walkway from where I was sitting on my park bench with my sandwich. So, it was a real opportunity to just decompress, unplug, and do a bit of drawing. It doesn't have to take long. You don't have to skip lunch. Just use it as a moment to say. And if you do this on a regular basis, if you do that 2-3 times a week, it's free drawing time. So and the other thing is, you might say, well, there's no parks near me. There's nothing to draw. Draw your lunch. And that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to just do a drawing of lunch. It's a fun thing to draw. You can eat anything you want to virtually in this special lunch restaurant that I have set up for us. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to offer you some suggestions. Here are some suggestions of things that one could have for lunch. Now, you don't have to say, I don't really like soup. This is a fantasy lunch. You can eat as much as you want and anything you want. You might say, you know what, French fries. Hopefully you have a pulse and you like French fries. Who doesn't? But you say, I can't really eat French fries, but you can draw them. And so that's going to be what we're going to do today. We're going to draw. You can get to pick from these things or something else, but you don't have to go with a healthy salad. You can draw a healthy salad if you'd like, but this is your fantasy lunch. You can eat anything you want, and we're going to have 3 elements to our lunch, okay? And maybe a little bit of opportunity to write some stuff around it if we want to write what we think about, or what the ingredients are. So pick an object here, or pick your own object. And we want to have this, and then we want to have room for 2 other drawings on the page, and we're going to kind of relate them to each other, okay? So we have some kind of brown soup. I'm not sure what's involved there. We have this hero sandwich. We have a hot dog. We have some kind of a chicken platter, some pasta, and a hamburger and French fries. And feel free to mix them. If you want to have a hot dog and soup, the classic lunch thing, you could have that too. So I'm thinking I'm going to go with a sandwich, and the reason I'm going to go with it is because it kind of looks good. It looks good, and it looks like it would be fun to draw. So that is that's as far as an art lunch goes, that's a good enough reason for me to pick this kind of big hero, right? they have so many different words for this particular thing. A Subway sandwich, not just the brand, but it used to be called, that's what we used to refer to this kind of sandwich as a Subway sandwich, or a hero, a hoagie, all different kinds of names that this sort of sandwich would have. Now, look at the top of this thing. You see how it has little seeds on it? And you might be tempted to go, da, 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 da. I'm just going to draw a bunch of dots on it. But maybe don't do that. Instead, what if you just look at the dots, at the circles, and their shapes, and their placement, and just try doing that. Just try actually drawing each of these little, I guess are they sesame seeds? Poppy seeds? I don't know. Fly droppings? What are they? So I'm just focusing right now on just the top of this bun. Maybe I'll come back to it in a minute. But yeah, so that's more or less, and there's a little tiny crack here. So I'm just going to now put some cheese on my sandwich. A little piece of cheese there, and there's a tomato. But you see, because I drew these lines, paying somewhat of attention to them, like that line there, because I did that, I am able to put this cheese in the right place, because it starts right at that crack, and it kind of goes, it's sort of a, what you call it, an isosceles triangle. And then the tomato sits right here. So if you get one thing pretty much right, then you can build off that one thing and add other things. Now, you do not need to feel limited, not only by the subject matter here, but also you could make it up. You could certainly create your own lunch in your own mind and serve it to yourself. So I'm doing an observational drawing, but you could certainly do something that was more abstracted, or you could do something that was just totally imagination. Totally use your imagination to do this. It's up to you. But so going back to my discussion before about using your lunch break in this way, it's a very satisfying thing to have done a drawing at lunch, I find. Because, let's be honest, a lot of times lunch is not the greatest thing, not the greatest food. Or it might be your favorite. You might love having a big hoagie. But there is an opportunity to have a really satisfying experience at lunchtime by doing a drawing and by saying, I did something. Everybody else was, on Reddit during lunch, but not me. And there were some guys who were working on Excel charts during lunch while stuffing down a sandwich. But here's the thing. This sandwich, which is granted just a photograph, but this sandwich, I bet you if we got to eat it, would be a lot tastier because we'd drawn it. And, in a way, I'm not a religious man, but in a way, I think that this experience of drawing your food is somewhat like saying grace, right? Being grateful for what you've got, what you're eating there. And, it's also just taking a moment to be conscious, even, forget religion for a minute, but just being conscious of what you're eating. It's also healthier for you. I spend a lot of time just kind of wolfing food down while doing something else. But this is an opportunity to just be aware, be here, taste your food because you've drawn it and you thought about it. Because I think if you spent all this time doing this, drawing the sandwich, and then it was time to eat it, you would probably give it, some attention. All right, so I've worked my way down here, right? So I'm not just drawing a bunch of random squiggles. Each of these things that I've drawn, I can tell you exactly what that thing was. And now I'm going to draw the bottom bun, but I can feel reasonably confident that, because when I first look at it, I think, oh, is this too understuffed? Is the real sandwich much more stuffed? But I have a fair amount of confidence that despite that initial trepidation, it's not really warranted, because I've taken time to pay attention to all of the landmarks that I've passed as I'm drawing. And as a result, I know that these things are actually really here. At least I think they are. All right, so there's my sandwich. Now, I could put it on a plate. Maybe I will. Would it be on a plate? This kind of a sandwich? Probably not. But I'm just looking at it from a design standpoint. It's a little bit of a lummox. So I'm just going to draw a plate around it. I don't know. It'll just give me another thing to kind of give some dimension to this. And then, you know, maybe there's some little sort of doodads here in some little crumbs and crumb-like objects lying here. Speaking of crumbs, our friend Robert Crumb here? I guess what? One time that he spontaneously comes up. So, yeah. So now, the next question is tone, because there is tone to the sandwich, obviously, but I don't know that I want to start getting into a lot of cross-hatching with this. I think what I might do is I might bring in some other materials. Bring in some colored pencils, I think, and try just adding a little bit of tone there. It's not a good color. I don't have exactly. This is called. Oh, it's called Baked Earth. I was about to say this color isn't called like bun, but it's called Baked Earth. So, which is kind of a strange name for a colored pencil, but that is what it's called. But it's not quite the right color. It needs to be more orangey. So I think I'm probably going to end up having to do some layering and make it a bit more interesting, a bit more accurate. So it looks less like some kind of whole wheat bun. But I could put in some. What is this color? Tan. Yeah, that's not what I want either. I think I want something like orange. Not really right either. It's like no matter how many colored pencils you have, you're always missing some, right? It's probably an art law that we could come up with that rule. This is watercolor paper, so I could watercolor on it, or I could even activate this. These are Inktense pencils that turn into watercolor if you want them to. But I think I'm just going to keep it dry, keep things dry. This is a nice juicy red, I have to say. Nice and tomatoey. A little bit of it hiding in there. Yeah, I think if I had a bit more time, I would go in and I would really go through all my colored pencils and find really more accurate shades. The set has a lot of browns in it, though. I think that I could get the right one eventually. Okay, I think I'm going to have to go in probably and use like a blue or something weird like that. This is, now I don't have a ham colored pencil, so I'm going to have to kind of wing that too. Normally Inktense does it for me. Today it's missing some crucial things. Let's try this as Graphitint. What is this called? Cacao. Looking for a ham-colored sandwich, or a sandwich-colored pencil. All right, let's try a totally different kind of pencil. Ooh, these look nicer. These are Chromaflow. See, that's more of a ham. That's ham-colored. Is it called ham? No, it's called blush pink. Well, it'll do as a stand-in. Simone wants to know if wouldn't it be better to paint? You know, you're probably right. It might have been better to paint. To paint it in watercolor. Might have been. But you know, let's see if I can pull it back from the brink of not better and make it better by sticking with it. That's so often the case. Like look, see, that's a good color. I should have gone to this set of colors right away. This is much better. Yeah, but you know, sometimes you start something and then you say, oh, you know what? I was planning. I thought the color pencil would be good. Now it's turning out not to be good. But then suddenly, you know what? You realize that it's just a different destination than you thought you were heading towards, but it could actually still be good, you know? You do something, you think it isn't your expectation, but yet it's okay. This set of pencils has an underlayer with even more pencils. Pencil upon pencil. These are good colors. I have to remember that. Lots of sets of colored pencils, and sort of think that they're interchangeable, but they're really not. There's like different qualities that they have, and different color ranges that they have. Good thing about colored pencils, they never dry out. So you can buy a set of colored pencils and not use them for years, and they're eager to step up and get to work when you want them to. They might need a little sharpening, but they don't even get dull. You could sharpen all your pencils, put them away, come back 20 years later, and they're all pretty much ready to go. So, yeah, this is getting better. But I felt like drawing with colored pencils today. That's honestly the main reason that I did this. Not because I necessarily knew that it would be right, but because, so now I'm taking this blue, and you go, well, there's no real blue in this sandwich, is there? And it's true, there isn't. So, but I'm using it just to just to add a little bit of shadow in here. I like blue shadows. If I was a woman, I would probably be wearing blue eyeshadow right now. Well, not just a woman, but if I was the kind of person who wore eyeshadow, which so far I'm not. But you never know. Things could come up. It could be an inspiration. But yeah, see, I like that blue. I like that blue down there. That's the cool thing about colored pencils, I find, is you can make your own colors by just layering and layering and layering. And then see, now I'm bringing in purple. These are the kinds of later stage touches. You just keep jumping around and seeing, okay, this could add a little bit there. That would be better. When you look into all these little shadows, there's kind of small shadows throughout this, the shadow cast by the cheese. The shadow cast by the cheese. And you just say, that shadow may be built up of multiple colors. But again, I think that this kind of a drawing is enhanced by making sure that you have a bunch of different tones. So not colors, but tones. Like if we let's have a look at this. Check this out. Can I get to this? There. So you see how this is now just tones. So it's a black and white camera. So you can see like this is dark. And there's a range of tones. Like you get a sense of the colors and that's what makes it, I think, more interesting to look at. It makes it feel more kind of dimensional. And because it's all tones. All tones are represented. There's lights in here. There's kind of mediums. And then there's darks. So that's all good. Let's get back to color. There. Would it be cool if you could just do that with your brain? Say, all right, I want to see in other color ranges. I want to see an infrared. I'm sure that will be available. That will be a new technology that will be available. But that thing I just did, I think you can do that with your phone. Pull out your phone, open the camera, and then look at your drawing with the camera and just change the settings on your camera. Most cameras will allow you to, look at things in black and white. So then you can get more of a sense of your thing. So what is it? It's now, we've been doing this for about 20 minutes. And you know what? I'm getting a bit thirsty. Did you draw this sandwich? Maybe you've drawn the soup or the pasta. Maybe you drew another different thing. And you're using a different approach. That's cool. You could share that if you want to. Share that in the chat. But that's my entree. All right. So now we've still got this whole page here. Still got all this stuff here. Room. So I'm getting a bit thirsty. So I'm going to remove the entree. Hope you're prepared for that. Here we go. It's being taken away. They're clearing the table. We're a bit thirsty, so they've brought in some drinks. So let's pick a drink. Again, this is your fantasy meal. So if you feel like having a 3 martini lunch, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's up to you. Fran's drawing corn dogs. Okay. That's your fantasy lunch. So I'm going to draw. Screw it. I'm having one of these kind of fun drinks. I'm going to have a cocktail. I have a cocktail. And I'm going to put it back here. I think. Yeah, I'm going to put it back here. I'm not sure that I'm going to have an umbrella in mind. Maybe I will. This looks like, what kind of a drink is this even? Sort of vaguely looks like a daiquiri or a Tom Collins or something. think that this piece of reference is not actually a photo. I think it's like some kind of not terribly good piece of 3D illustration. Because there seems to be a lot of like crazy stuff going on in the glass that probably isn't really real. So I apologize for that. Kind of didn't really realize it. So if you're drawing this cocktail, I don't think it's a photograph, which is fine because we're not copying it. We're being inspired by it. We're referencing it. So that's, and then we need to have this back. Now remember that the top of your cocktail glass is not a straight line. But here, I'm gonna draw this umbrella. It just makes it the whole thing more festive, right? But I'm probably gonna take some liberties with it. So there's the lemon, has some doodads coming out of it, and this thing has some lemons floating inside of it. It seems like almost an undrinkable drink with all that stuff in it. But yeah. But it's lunch, you know, they're probably trying to make sure you don't get too hammered. And that you get your fruit. It's healthy, actually. It's actually good for you. So there we go. That's the beginning of this drink. Maybe, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. So this is like what they call like a soldier down. This is a cocktail that's been emptied, and it's kind of lying by its side in the background. So it's a second thing, second cocktail. Jen says maybe it's this fancy lemonade. Maybe it's not a very healthy serving, but anyway. Let's have at this. What are you drinking? Cup of coffee? A nice Pilsner Urquell? If you ever go to Prague, make sure you have Pilsner Urquell there. We've never been particularly big fans of Pilsner Urquell here in the United States, but when JJ and I went to Prague and had it there, it was incredibly good. So I don't know if it's just that they only serve the Drek. They only export the Drek. Could be. But it was nowhere near the quality of it here. I think I had one when we came back just to see, and I was like, yeah, this is like a completely different species. It's a good reason to travel, to drink other kinds of beer. I think I'm going to give it a purple umbrella. A little bit of purple on the top of that glass now. Right, there would be a bit of a reflection there. And I think I'm going to even use this purple because purple is, of course, the complement of yellow. So it's not a bad color to use for shading when you have primarily yellow. Now there should be a little bit of yellow in this stem of this glass, I think. But I don't want to get too much into coloring this background one because it's not the focus of attention. So. Okay. I'm having some regret. I'm not sure. I mean, it's fine, but if I had ordered that sandwich, I can't imagine that I would have actually had this daiquiri or whatever this thing would be called. A lemon drop? Isn't that a drink? A lemon drop? I don't think I would have ordered that, so it's a little less inviting. That might have been. And I think I'm going to continue using that light blue to just put a little bit of background in it here. Now, what about tone on this one? Not a huge amount of tone. It's pretty much light. Because I'm also imagining that this thing is more of a background element. The sandwich is kind of the star. But I like to see, this thing is in the background, and I drew it with a sort of like kind of wobbly, vaguer line, part because it feels like it's a little drunk, but also because it's in the background. So this one has a stronger, more confident line because it feels like it's in the foreground. This is a sort of more background action. So you want to make sure you think about that in your, even in your line quality. Even your line quality can make a difference there. Okay, there we have it. And now, I see you guys are talking about Dr. Pepper. I used to make commercials for Dr. Pepper many years ago. They loved to advertise Diet Dr. Pepper in particular. So, all right, there we go. Now, Kishya has been inspired to sketch. That's good. That's excellent. Well, hopefully it'll be lunchtime soon and you can do a drawing, although feel free to draw one right now. No reason to wait. Okay, now, because again, this is a fantasy, remember, we can eat or drink whatever we want. Dessert. What do you think? Dessert, right? You probably don't have dessert with lunch a lot, but we can in our special Draw With Me cafeteria where dessert is included. So here's just a few desserts. We've got a really grotesque looking donut and a very strawberry sundae and then a piece of chocolate cake. Feel free to have all of them. As Buddha Craft says, dessert is lunch. So yes, we need pie. Yes. Well, feel free to draw anything you'd like. It's your lunch. I think I'm going to draw mine over here just to kind of anchor it. And I think I'm going to draw that sundae because that sundae, that looks good. And I think it needs to go like kind of back here, kind of waiting for us to finish our sandwich or to finish drawing our sandwich at least. So it's going to be sitting back here somewhat. So, but it's interesting. It's an interesting object to draw because it is glass, and you can see all these different levels, the way the glass is behaving. but it's also a good excuse to just have a Sunday. That's the thing about drawing. You can have anything you want to eat. You can have 6 Sundays if you want and not gain an ounce because you're just drawing them. Now, if you eat them, I can't guarantee that you won't become overweight. But if you're just drawing, no. Drawing is exercise too. You're actually losing weight as you draw. Another reason to draw your lunch. You can eat whatever you want as long as you're drawing it because you're burning calories. Depends on how vigorously you draw, I guess. But yeah. You are exercising. At least you're exercising your drawing skills. And you are you're building your brain as you're doing this. Did you know that? Your brain burns a lot of calories. At least yours does. I don't know about mine, but yours probably does. So let's try and draw all these little shapes. You see, there's all these interesting little shapes as the strawberries kind of bursting through the ice cream in various places. And you know what? I think I'm going to put that little stick, whatever it is, there on this side because I just want it to kind of anchor out. I don't want it leading into the drawing. I want it to kind of stick out a bit so I have something on that side. But I'm just going to draw it in reverse there. So right now, let's go in and look at this glass. And also deciding how much of these reflections and things like that in the glass do I want to draw with this fine liner, and how many of, do I want to leave it for the colored pencils? Maybe that's a better strategy, just to not make them too heavy-handed, Sometimes black lines are good for outlining things, but sometimes they can just seem too much. And you end up, outlining everything, and it feels like too much. But let's get in there. So we can start with some pinks. So this is blush pink again. Sort of interesting because you're kind of pulling it together. So this pink, where did I use the pink? In here. Now I'm using that same pink up here. And that's going to help to, oops, I don't want to color in that mint leaf. But, but also I want to kind of have a different technique here because I want to make this lighter. I don't necessarily have to change pencils. I can just change strokes on my pencil. So this is kind of, I'm pressing down harder, being a bit more aggressive with it. And whereas down here, I'm just kind of sketching it. Switching to a reddish, what is this pencil? Pure red. Well, excuse me. Pure red. I like that green mint leaf in there, though. It's a nice little piece of contrast, even though I colored it red here for some reason. But again, green is the complement of red, so it's not too bad having that in there. And then let's make these strawberries back here that are bright red. And bit of tan and a little bit of darker brown in here. And then that light blue, whatever happened to it, here it is. I'm going to bring some of that in here. Even though this glass isn't really light blue, there's something about this light blue that seems right for it. And I'm going to put in a bit here because there is tone in this light, this there's lightness on the side, but there's definitely some shadow more here in the center. This part is more shadow because it's a three-dimensional object. I'm bringing in a little salmon. So yeah, so that's reasonable. And then I'm going to just put a bit of reflection because even though this picture doesn't have it, I kind of feel like it needs it. The glass needs to reflect the color of the ice cream. And then this needs like a more magenta-ish kind of color, I think. I mean, this ice cream this part looks pretty fake. I don't think ice cream would really be that color. Not strawberry ice cream. It's too much. It's a bit too intense. But we can decide whether we want to do that or not. We can make it our own flavor. We can make it a different. If you don't like strawberry, make something else. But that's pretty good. All right, let's have a look at this whole thing now. Okay, now, you know what? I just needed to add a little bit of something down here to anchor this a bit. Right, let me just put my colored pencils away for the moment. And let's do some writing. Let's write about this lunch. What should we say about it? Well, first of all, I think I have the space down here at the bottom. Intrepid Fraidy Cat says a lovely boozy lunch. Yeah. What can we call this? We could say Hero Cocktail Sunday. Well, I don't know. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna get. So I think I'm gonna. Should I write in purple? I just picked up this bottle of ink and it was purple, violet. Maybe, or maybe brown. Okay, so I've got this. This is sepia. Let's do some call outs. Let's write about these sandwiches, like here. So this is it a hoagie? I'm going to call it an Italian hero. Italian hero. Can you think of many Italian heroes? There've certainly been no Italian superheroes I can think of. Maybe Mario, Super Mario, is an Italian superhero. But yeah, I'm going to call that Italian hero, and I'm going to call this one this Strawberry Sundae. I guess I'm not being clever here. I'm reporting. So imagine that we were sitting down to lunch, and we decided just to kind of document what we've been eating, or what we're going to be eating. Of course, by the time we finish this drawing, the hero would be stale, the sundae would have melted, and all the ice would have melted in our drink. But this is, draw with me where these kinds of horrible things never happen. And you might say to yourself, seriously, what do I do if I want to draw my lunch and I'm afraid that it's going to be ruined? I'm going to call this a lemon drop, even though I don't know what that is exactly, but I kind of like the words. So okay, so this is, so I'm going to call it, I'll just call it lunch. And then I'll say with my pals and draw with me. But now I could write some stuff down here, you know, like just write a little story, you know, like, do we have time? We're kind of running out of time, but I would write something down here. I would write just a couple of things. I might also decide that I want to do some kind of a frame around this because it's starting to feel like it's a little bit needs it. And then I could write my story in a little box like that. So I could write some stuff in there, which I don't have time to do, unfortunately, today with us here together. But I want to maybe leave a little room for this thing to stick out. And then this could come down. And, you know, maybe what I could do here is I'm going to draw, I could just draw the check. Check is sort of lying in a I'm not sure how clear that is, but let's say that maybe this was like a, you know, it came out to some interesting number like 1877 or something like that. Anyway, so that is it. So then, you know, we could write a little story there about it. And that's the page. It's right there. So I'm done and I'm full. Anyway, what was I saying before? I was trying to explain to you how if you're busy eating lunch, how do you draw it? Okay, here's what you do. You can just do the line work. Just do the line work. Just do the drawing of the outline. Just draw that quickly. That shouldn't take you that long. You don't have to necessarily even put all the detail in it. And then later on, maybe while you're digesting, you could add the color, or you could just do kind of the outline of the drawing and then take a photo and then do it later on. It would be nice to do some of the drawing with the food there. If you take a photo and you go later on, I'll do a drawing, then you've kind of ruined the point, because the whole point was to have a drawing lunch break. And if instead you're using it as a lunch break where you take a photo of your food, whatever. But you know, I think that it's still an opportunity to do at least some of the drawing. Again, you may say to yourself, well, that took 45 minutes and, you know, you had all these different art supplies with you. Yes, it's true. But you don't have to go to this degree of finish. And you also, you could do it smaller too. You could do a little tiny drawing, you know, in a small sketchbook. You know, I have sketchbooks that are like that size. You carry in your pocket. So you can just do a quick drawing of it. So a lot of times with drawings, I find that it's nice to, you know, you travel at different speeds. You know, it's kind of like there are sprinting drawings and there are marathon drawings. You can decide, you know, I have 5 minutes to do this. You can do a really great drawing in 5 minutes, or you could say I have 3 hours. You can do a really great drawing in 3 hours. It's up to you to kind of pace yourself, and don't worry if you're not going to get it all. And honestly, another thing that's good, you could do a partial drawing of this, and maybe you don't draw every little seed on top of the bun. You don't draw every single thing, but you've kind of suggested it, or you've suggested part of it, or you've drawn some part of it in detail, and you've left the rest blank. You can fit it in 5 minutes. You can do kind of anything you want. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. That was fun. I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope that you plan to celebrate National Make Lunch Count Day. Maybe go to TGIFs, TGI Fridays. But it is TGI Thursday, because that's when we do Draw With Me. So, yeah. That is the story. That's the extent of it. Just a few reminders. I would love to see your lunch. So please share it on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Tag it with hashtag SBS Draw With Me. SBS standing for Sketchbook School. SBS Draw With Me, and we will go out and find it. And next Thursday, we will be able to share your lunch on the grand buffet that is at the beginning of this episode. What else? If you want to, our podcast, we're taking a little hiatus on the podcast, but we've got 80-something episodes of it there, Art for All podcast. You can listen to it on your favorite podcast platform, or you can watch a lot of the episodes are here on YouTube as well. Danny'sEssays.com. I write essays about creativity and art and stuff, pep talks to keep you going, and they're free, so you can sign up there. And of course, don't forget to go to sketchbookschool.com and get your ebook, because it's a fun book, but also I would love to be able to let you know about cool things that are happening at Sketchbook School. We're sending out a newsletter just in a few days, in fact. So there's that. All right, good. Well, that is about the end of it. I'll see you again next week. Thanks for drawing with me today. I hope you had fun. I'll see you again soon.